Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. Late last night, some news broke about the Nick Chubb situation. It seemed like we had been getting no news. I put out a video before the weekend concerned about if Nick Chubb's career was going to see a dignified end. And now we have a massive update, the update we've been waiting for in this Nick Chubb situation, which is barring a physical, which still needs to be passed. It's interesting that that was noted. That doesn't always get noted. But Ian Rappaport says the Browns free agent Nick Chubb, one of the most decorated players available, is expected to sign with the Texans on Monday if all goes well, with the physical sources say. So Nick Chubb to the Houston Texans. So I have a couple of thoughts about this. My first thing that I think about is it's been obvious that the Browns had put Nick Chubb in Kareem Hunt mode. And what I mean by that is Kareem Hunt only really got back onto the Browns for that second run after he got cut by the Colts. And also the Browns were in a deficit at the running back position. They did not have enough running backs to start the season with. And that's kind of the mode that the Browns put Nick Chubb in. I'm not a fan of that move. I think Nick Chubb has value on the Cleveland Browns roster, both on the football field and off the football field. And I think that's hard to get with, the amount of money that Nick Chubb would be signing for. So, but right now we don't know what the money is for Nick Chubb. We just know that it is likely that he's going to end up on the Houston Texans. Now, it's interesting how this story has gone, right? Because for the longest time, all I was hearing was that, hey, after the draft, the Browns are likely to bring in Nick Chubb, right? Get him signed, bring him back. It seemed like Andrew was pointing towards that. And then after the draft, the Browns front office publicly was striking a different tone. And what you were hearing from people inside the building started to strike a different tone when it came to Nick Chubb. So something happened during the draft. What could those somethings have been? I think it's obvious what those somethings are. They got the trade with Jacksonville, which they thought they could have in place. Maybe getting Jacksonville's second round pick was the shoe they were waiting to drop in that trade. And that's the pick that they ended up using on Quincy Junkins. Once they were able to get Quincy, they basically said to themselves, it's time to move on from Nick Chubb. We got our new bell cow running back, or the guy that we want to, hope that is our new bell cow running back. Maybe Dylan Sampson falling to the fourth was another factor in this for the Cleveland Browns, but clearly the draft, the trades the Browns make, and I believe once the Browns traded that second overall pick, I think getting that extra second round pick basically was the final nail in Nick Chubb's run in Cleveland. I think maybe if they don't trade back, they just take Travis Hunter. I think there's a chance that maybe they keep Nick Chubb, because it seemed like that was the direction they're going, barring nobody falls to him or Quincy doesn't fall to him in the third round or something. It's hard to play a what-if game about something like that. But that seems to be how all of this played out. I think the Browns were going to bring back Nick Chubb for most of the offseason, and then the draft happened, and then the circumstances changed. Now, if we're just going to go back to talking about my feelings about Nick Chubb signing with the Houston Texans, one, I wish the best for Nick Chubb, and this makes me happy for Nick Chubb. Not the Cleveland Browns, but happy for Nick Chubb, who I have an immense amount of respect for as a football player, because what I really like, regardless of if Nick Chubb played for the Browns again, there are two things I did not want to see happen in Nick Chubb's career. One, him play for Pittsburgh. I could deal with Baltimore. I don't know. Baltimore would be tough, but it's happened before, right? I can deal with Baltimore. I can deal with Cincinnati, but the idea of Nick Chubb playing for the very franchise that basically took years off of his career, it makes me sick to my stomach. So I'm thankful that he did not end up on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster, or at least has not ended up on the Pittsburgh Steelers roster as of right now, June 8th, 2025. Now, where I'm also happy for Nick Chubb is that this is a real opportunity for Nick Chubb to not only play in some playoff games, play for a contender, but have his career end with the dignity that it deserves. I think his career deserved going out in Cleveland. The Browns disagreed with me on that. That is what it is. But at the very least, I want to see Nick Chubb's career go out strong and with dignity, because he deserves it, right? I don't want to see him have this undignified end to his career where he kind of fizzles out and farts into the wind and you never really hear of Nick Chubb again. I want Nick Chubb to have a resurgence, and play some good football and end his career on his terms with the dignity that he deserves. So I am at least thankful that the Houston Texans are giving him a opportunity to do that. And it's interesting because Houston's like where a lot of Browns end up after they leave Cleveland. I think Christian Kirksey ended up over there. Duke Johnson ended up over there. Obviously, we took Deshaun Watson. We've had a bunch of trades with the Houston Texans. I think Terrence Mitchell also ended up over there. There was a safety. I think Eric Murray was over there. They've had a lot of former Browns out there in Houston for like no real systemic reason. I think it's just a coincidence out there. Nick Chubb's another guy there. They're not a division rival. I don't really have any beef with the Houston Texans, if I'm being honest with you. Some people might hold the Deshaun trade over their head, but I don't think the Browns making that decision to give the contract to Deshaun Watson, which was really the more circumstantial part, was Houston's fault. So, yeah, I think that this is a good landing spot for Nick Chubb. Hopefully Nick Chubb plays really well, ends his career out strong, and ends his career with some dignity. So, regardless of how this makes me feel as a fan, what my emotions are as a fan, I want to make sure that I just send my respect to Nick Chubb and my best wishes to people who are going to be rooting for Nick Chubb to do well, because I'll be one of those people. I hope Nick Chubb, I hope he has another 1,000-yard year in his belt. I know that the track record of guys that, especially like Andrew Berry, who, you can think about him whatever you want in the draft. One thing Andrew's been strong at is pro personnel in Cleveland. He's usually not wrong when he decides that he's over some of these guys age-wise. That doesn't mean he's perfect, and I'm hoping this is one of those situations where he's just wrong, because I want Nick Chubb to have a strong end to his career. I would hate for him to have another season like he did last year and just kind of have to peter out because Mika Fitzpatrick hit him way too low in a Monday Night Football game. I really hate to see that be how the story ends on the football field for Nick Chubb as a football player. Now, that being said, turning this around on the Browns, I am a little worried about our running back room. I know a lot of people aren't. I think I'm more worried than most. I am not as worried as a lot of people seem to be about the offensive line. I think the offensive line is fine. I don't think it's a great offensive line anymore, but you could do worse than Jack Conklin. You could do worse than Joe Bitonio. You could do worse than Ethan Posick. You could do much worse than Wyatt Teller. And DeJuan Jones, if he's in shape, which it looks like he's in shape, you could do a lot worse than DeJuan. So, I think you'll be a fine offensive line this upcoming year if you stay relatively healthy. Where I worry about the Browns is hey, we're leaning a lot on rookie running backs. And I brought up in a video that if the Browns want to get to 500 carries, we're either going to be putting ourselves in a position where we're going to be relying on 400 of those carries to be from rookie running backs who we're not even sure are ready for the NFL yet, or we're going to have to give a lot of carries to Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong. And I don't love being that close to 200 carries to Jerome Ford. Like Jerome Ford, I think it's fine when you keep him at 100, but 200 carries for Jerome Ford, I think you end up in kind of exposing him territory. Yeah, I'm just worried about where these, like the Browns are clearly going to run the ball more this year. I don't think that means that they're going to lead the league in rushing attempts this year, but they're going to be about at 500 rushing attempts. I think they're going to try to get somewhere close to that number. And I'm just concerned. We're really just turning this whole thing over to rookies without really knowing, because we haven't been in camp. We haven't put in pads. We really don't know if these guys are good. And there's no like safety valve here, right? I thought if you brought in Nick Chubb, at the end of the day, Nick Chubb's a safety valve. If these guys aren't ready for 300 carries as a combined group, these rookies, then you have Nick Chubb who could do 200 carries, no problem. Jerome Ford can't handle that. He's not a safety valve. Pierre Strong is certainly not a safety valve. I want the Browns to get a safety valve at that running back position. I just feel super uncomfortable with how much we're leaning on these rookies before we really even know if they're going to be up to that task in the NFL in year one. Especially like in Dylan Sampson's case, because at least with Q's a big dude. Right. So there's reason to believe that, like, since he's already 225 pounds, okay, he can go 200 plus carries and be fine. Dylan Sampson's pretty small. And I know people have compared him to the same size as Jahmyr Gibbs or something like that. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a special case, right? Like, not all 5'8" running backs can throw themselves at the offense at the defense as much as Jahmyr Gibbs gets away with, right? Also another question of like Jahmyr Gibbs is a first round pick, man. We're talking about Dylan Sampson, a 4th round pick. And the reason that's important is Jahmyr Gibbs has talent that is so undeniable that it helps him be on the field that much. Dylan Sampson, if he was undeniable, he wouldn't have been in the 4th round, right? Like, he has good talent. I like his tape, but it's not undeniable when you watch him. And it's just, again, man, we're really leaning on a lot of rushing attempts to some really young running backs, some rookie running backs, without really knowing if they're even going to be close to ready. And what happens if training camp comes around and you're looking at Q and you're like, Q can maybe get 200 carries. If you're looking at Dylan and you're thinking to yourself, I don't think Dylan's ready for 100 carries yet, then what do? Who's getting those carries? Because it can't be Jerome. We have found out violently he's only a 100 carry running back. With Pierre Strong, he's not a 100 carry guy. Like, where's the safety valve? We really need a safety valve in that running back room. So, this does nothing to, waive my concerns about that. Honestly, it raises those concerns for the Cleveland Browns. But I am happy that Nick Chubb's going to get an opportunity with the Texans. I hope he bounces back strong and plays well, and just has a dignified end to his career. So overall, I'm happy that Nick Chubb is signed. He's not going to go out the league. He's not going to have to try to find a team at the start of the season. He's going to be able to get into an off-season program and really work his way onto a team. Am I sad he's not on the Cleveland Browns? Yeah, but I would have been much, much, much more sad if Nick Chubb had not had an NFL team by October, right? So this is a better scenario than that. If I'm not trying to just be selfish about my own Browns fan perspective and thinking about Nick Chubb as well. But that's my thoughts on this. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.